Hi everyone, and thank you so much for joining us online today. During this morning's webinar, delivered in partnership with NCVO's trusted supplier Zurich, we're going to be exploring building management for voluntary organisations and charities. My name's Nick, and I'm the Networks and Engagement Manager here at NCVO. And in just a moment, I'm going to be handing over to Michelle York, a risk consultant from Zurich. But before I do that, there's just a couple of housekeeping points that I wanted to note. So first up, closed captions or subtitles have been enabled, and you can turn these on or off by clicking on the CC icon in the toolbar at the bottom of the screen. In just a moment, my colleague Chanel is going to share the slide deck for today in the chat as a PDF. So if it would help with accessibility, you can download these slides to your computer to zoom in and out of the slides as we go along. So today's webinar is just an hour, so we'll be running straight through without a break. And we will have time to take some questions in the final 15 minutes or so. So if you've got any questions that you want to put to Michelle, please submit these via the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. Please don't add your questions to the chat box as they're likely to get lost. If there is lots going on in the chat, as often happens at webinar, and you're finding this quite distracting, you can click on the chat icon at the bottom of the screen, which will close the chat window. You may also have noticed that today's webinar is being recorded, but everyone has joined in view-only mode, which means the only people that you'll be able to see and hear will be myself, it will be Michelle, and you can probably see Chanel from NCVO and Claire, who's also from Zurich. Finally, a copy of the slides will be sent after today's webinar, along with all of the things that we mentioned. So it's a fairly full hour that we've got ahead of you. So to get stuck into the content and to lead us through the webinar on building management for voluntary organisations and charities, I'm really pleased to now hand over to our colleague from Zurich, Michelle York, who will start sharing her screen.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Nick. Right, so hopefully everybody can see the slides.
Perfect.
Great. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining this presentation on building management for voluntary organisations and charities, a practical approach to safely renting or owning a building. Drawing on from my previous extensive experience as a health and safety regulator, I've witnessed firsthand the profound impact that effective building management can have on an organisation's success and safety, especially for smaller organisations with limited resources. I wonder if you may be able to relate to having to do more with less at times. In this session, we'll delve into practical solutions tailored specifically for the unique challenges faced by organisations such as yours. Whether you're a trustee, CEO, building manager, work in finance, or anyone else involved in building management, the goal is to equip you with the knowledge and tools necessary to maintain a safe, compliant, and efficient environment that supports your mission. In this presentation, we'll uncover the critical importance of effective building management for voluntary organisations and charities. We'll start by addressing the fundamental question, why building management? Understanding this will set the stage for our deep dive into the 5 stages of effective contractor management, providing you with a systematic approach to selecting and supervising your contractors to ensure quality and safety. Next, we'll explore building management communication strategies, highlighting the importance of clear, consistent communication to avoid misunderstandings and streamline your operations. I'll also touch on building inspection regimes, offering practical advice on how to maintain your property through regular inspections and proactive maintenance. And finally, we'll uncover some specific insurance questions around some key topics, helping to ensure that your organisation is adequately protected against potential risks. Building management is crucial for several key reasons. First and foremost, it ensures a safe and compliant environment, which is essential for the well-being of everyone involved and for meeting regulatory requirements. Effective building management also supports operational efficiency by optimizing the use of space and resources, including use of volunteers where appropriate, and leading to smoother day-to-day operations. Additionally, it enhances the organisation's image and reputation by demonstrating a commitment to professionalism and care. And by minimising the risk of injury and claims, good building management protects the organisation from potential legal and financial liabilities. Finally, it supports financial outputs and long-term planning by ensuring that the property is well maintained and sustainable, which can lead to cost savings and better resource allocation over time. For small organisations with limited budgets, effective building management is even more critical as it ensures that every resource is used efficiently, maximising the impact of every pound spent. By focusing on these aspects, charities and voluntary organisations can create a more effective, sustainable and supportive environment for their mission and community. Now, to further emphasise the importance of building management, let's look at a case study based on a feasible real-life scenario. This case study illustrates why diligence in building management really matters. A small charity-operated community centre in the UK faced significant challenges due to inadequate building maintenance. A visitor slipped on a wet floor where a leaking roof had caused water to accumulate, and the outcome was that the visitor filed a liability claim against the charity. The investigation revealed that the charity had failed to address the leaking roof despite previous complaints, and was then found liable, resulting in £5,000 for legal fees and court costs, and there was a compensation payment of £10,000 to the injured visitor. This contrasted sharply with the £2,000 it would have cost to fix the leaking roof and prevent future incidents. The charity also suffered reputational damage due to the loss of community trust and potential future donations, so lots of implications there. And this example underscores the necessity for smaller organisations and charities to prioritise building management. While it must be balanced, of course, with budgets and what is reasonable, regular maintenance, prompt repairs, risk assessments, and compliance with health and safety regulations, all of which we'll cover in part today, are all essential to protect against liability claims and ensure the charity's sustainability. So as we've seen from the case study, effective building management is crucial. One key aspect of this is managing contractors effectively. Effective contractor management is a critical component of overall building management, ensuring that all contractors meet the required health and safety standards, thereby safeguarding the well-being of everyone on site. By coordinating and supervising contractor activities, building managers can ensure that work is carried out according to plan, minimising disruptions and maintaining project timelines. This oversight is crucial for the timely and cost-effective completion of works, helping to avoid delays and budget overruns, which is vital for maintaining operational efficiency. Additionally, the effective contractor management mitigates the risks associated with third-party work, reducing the likelihood of accidents, legal issues, and substandard performance. In doing so, it supports the broader objectives of building management by protecting the organisation's interests, enhancing its image, and ensuring a safe, compliant, and well-maintained environment. Now, if effective contractor management practices are not followed, several adverse outcomes can arise. In this case study, a large UK-based charity embarked on a significant renovation project to modernise its headquarters in London. The aim was to create a more efficient and comfortable workspace for employees, enhancing productivity and supporting the charity's mission. The renovation included substantial upgrades to the electrical system to accommodate some new technologies and to improve energy efficiency. And the charity selected a contractor for the electrical work based on a competitive bidding process. Unfortunately, the chosen contractor had a poor history of subpar work, and this wasn't discovered due to the poor vetting processes. The electrical system was not installed properly, with several key safety protocols being overlooked, And shortly after the installation, an electrical fault occurred, sparking a fire that quickly spread through the building. The fire caused extensive damage to the newly renovated areas, including destruction of electrical systems, office equipment, structural elements. You can just imagine. The cost of repairs was substantial, running into hundreds of thousands of pounds. And the fire forced an immediate halt to the renovation project. The timeline for completion was significantly extended, delaying the move-in date for staff and disrupting the charity's operations. Employees had to work from temporary locations or remotely, and that affected productivity and coordination of charitable activities. The charity also faced unexpected financial burdens due to the repair costs and the need to hire a new contractor to rectify the issues. So we can see how contractor management here played a significant role in terms of things going wrong and the on-costs that came with that. Now, this case study, like the previous one, is fictional, but it's not far removed from the type that we do come across as an insurer. And it underscores the critical importance of effective contractor management to prevent safety hazards, financial losses, and operational disruptions for organisations undertaking any renovation projects. So let's look at contractor management in more detail. I'd like to propose that there are 5 key stages to consider in effective contractor management, regardless of whether you own or rent a building. You're going to come across common contracts such as building maintenance, for example, builders, plumbers, electricians, roofers, and maybe others such as cleaners, grounds maintenance, caterers, equipment hirers, you name it, specialist consultants such as health and safety consultants, or maybe water treatment and testing. There's a whole range of them out there. And when we are talking about a contractor, this is essentially anyone you pay to do work for you who is not an employee. So they may be contracted for a set number of hours, certain time frame, or the duration of a project. And contracting out is quite often done for economic and business reasons, but it could also be, depending on the issue, to limit or transfer liability risk. So effective contractor management, including for charities and voluntary organisations, involves a structured process with these 5 key stages. So in the first one, planning and selection, potential contractors are identified, assessed, and pre-qualified based on their experience, qualifications, maybe also their financial stability and their past performance. Next, during contract definition and award, the scope of work and safety requirements are clearly outlined, terms and conditions are set, and the contract is awarded. Then moving on to onboarding and training. In this stage, the contractors are introduced to the organisation's policies and safety protocols and provided with the necessary training. Then monitoring and supervision involves regularly tracking contractor performance, maintaining communication with them, and ensuring compliance with legal, safety, and quality standards. And finally, in the evaluation and review stage, the contractor performance is assessed, feedback is collected, and the contract is officially closed upon satisfactory completion of the work, and then lessons learned are documented. So this comprehensive approach ensures successful outcomes, maintains high safety and quality standards, and fosters strong relationships. Skipping any stage can lead to hiring unqualified contractors, subpar work delays, and increased costs. And it's important to remember that while this process, with lots of steps involved, might seem daunting, it can be scaled to fit the size and the scope of your organisation. Utilising volunteers and seeking guidance from experienced professionals can also make the process more manageable. By following these steps, even smaller organisations can achieve their goals efficiently and effectively. So effective contractor management begins with thorough planning and careful selection of the right partners. This initial stage sets the foundation for the entire project. ensuring that contractors are well qualified and aligned with your objectives and your requirements. In the planning and selection of contractors, start by first clearly defining the project scope or the work scope. This is like a big picture plan for the entire project. It tells you what the project will likely achieve, or what you'd like it to achieve, and what needs to be done to get there. It covers everything from the main goals and the end products to important deadlines, limits, and general requirements. It also includes any assumptions made during planning. In simple terms, it's the overall blueprint that shows what the project will include and what it won't. Practically, this should look like a simple document or a checklist that outlines each task, expected outcomes, deadlines, and quality standards. And share this document with all your potential contractors to ensure that they understand exactly what is required from you and from them. Choose qualified contractors by checking their licenses, certifications, and insurance to make sure that they are legally and professionally compliant. You are well within your rights to ask for this documentation, and also ask them for a copy of their risk assessments and method statements, or RAMs as we like to call it for short, to ensure that they are going to be working safely. And then you want to review subcontractor arrangements. And this involves checking whether the main contractor plans to hire additional workers or companies to complete parts of the work. And practically, this means asking the main contractor for a list of any subcontractors they plan to use and verifying that your contractor has also checked on their subcontractors' qualifications and experience, and that they have a good track record of compliance. You could consider creating a simple questionnaire to assess contractors' experience, track record, and compliance history. Use a scoring system, for example, to compare contractors based on criteria like experience, cost, safety record, and technical ability. Perform some background checks to uncover any past legal or compliance issues. So, for example, if you go on the Health and Safety Executive's website, they have a helpful database of all prosecutions and notices that they've served on organisations and individuals. So you could do a quick search there. This careful planning and selection process will help you identify the best contractors, laying a solid foundation for a successful project and perhaps a longer-term working relationship with a reliable contractor, which also helps reduce time spent on recruiting new contractors. So having planned and selected the right contractors, the next crucial stage is contract definition and award. This involves establishing clear contract terms, outlining the scope of work, timelines, budget, and performance standards to ensure mutual understanding. Awarding the contract to the most qualified contractor sets a strong foundation for a successful partnership and project execution. So for a small organisation, the contract award and definition stage should focus on some key elements that are both essential and manageable for you. So firstly, begin by clearly defining the scope of work to ensure all parties understand the tasks and outcomes. And the scope of work is a detailed description of the specific tasks, responsibilities, and deliverables that are required to complete a particular aspect of the work. It is more focused on the how and what of the tasks involved in the project. Also outline basic terms and conditions, and you might want to have some legal input into those, including a straightforward payment schedule. And then set some clear milestones and deadlines to track progress. And you want to specify essential quality standards, such as specifying the types of materials that are allowed to be used or not, and adhering to industry best practices and meeting predefined benchmarks for workmanship. And then you want to address key health and safety requirements to maintain compliance and ensure a safe working environment. This might include ensuring that contractors follow proper safety protocols, they use personal protective equipment, PPE, and that they adhere to regulations such as fire safety codes and emergency procedures. Clearly define roles and responsibilities to avoid confusion, and you might want to include a basic retention clause to incentivize satisfactory project completion. Additionally, you might want to think about incorporating some penalties for non-compliance. That's reduced payments, perhaps, where they haven't complied with certain aspects. And then on the last point, we want to plan for simple change management procedures. Planning for change management procedures means establishing a simple process to handle any changes or modifications to the project scope, or, for example, the timeline or the deliverables. So this ensures that all parties can adapt to changes smoothly without disrupting the project's overall progress. As projects become bigger, this is obviously going to be a lot more relevant as well. So this overall approach ensures that the contract is thorough yet feasible for a small organisation or charity to manage effectively. And while this process may seem somewhat intimidating, it needn't be, and it's important to understand that it can be scaled to fit the size and scope of your organisation. Start with the essentials and gradually build your knowledge and resources. Leverage existing templates and seek guidance from experienced professionals or other organisations that have successfully navigated similar processes. Get in contact with us if you need more support as well. Remember, the key is to keep it simple and manageable, focusing on clear communication and well-defined expectations. This approach not only makes the process more approachable, but it also ensures that you can effectively manage contractors, achieving the project goals and maintaining high standards of safety and quality. By taking these steps, even smaller organisations with limited experience and resources can confidently navigate the complexities of contractor management. Now, understanding the types of contracts and their essential elements is crucial for effectively awarding and defining contracts. A contract is an agreement that gives rise to obligations that are enforceable and recognised by the law. This means that the parties must be in agreement, and the agreement must be one that the law recognises and can enforce, giving the parties legal rights. So contracts can be made anywhere and in any circumstances. Many are made over the phone, face-to-face, or in writing. Most contracts are written, and some will be verbal, and some are entered into purely by the conduct of the parties. So we enter into contracts all the time in day-to-day life, often involving small transactions like buying a sandwich or receiving a service such as a haircut. And contracts are also an important part of our working life. As employees, we all have a contract for employment, and contracts are essential to the conduct of an organisation's business. For example, buying goods like printer paper or entering into services such as ground maintenance or building maintenance, for example. The essential parts of any contract are that the parties must be in agreement, which usually means that one party has made an offer that the other has accepted, and the parties must each have contributed something of value known as consideration. And then finally, the parties must intend to create a legal relationship. If any of these elements are missing, the contract won't be legally binding. This understanding of contracts is vital in the contract award and definition stage of effective contractor management, by ensuring that all contracts are clear, legally binding, and encompass all necessary elements. You can better manage contractor relationships, mitigating risks, and ensuring successful outcomes. So moving on to the onboarding and training stage, this stage is crucial for integrating contractors into the organisation and ensuring that they are well prepared to meet project requirements. This phase involves familiarising contractors with your policies, your procedures and safety protocols, as well as providing any necessary training to guarantee they have the skills and the knowledge needed to perform their tasks effectively and safely. The onboarding and training stage should begin with a brief induction session to welcome contractors and provide an overview of key policies they need to follow. So this would include discussing what hazards they might be exposed to. After all, it's your building and you're going to have the best understanding of what they're going to be walking into. You want to discuss with them any high-risk features and your organization's health and safety policy. If you need a template for a health and safety policy, the Health and Safety Executive provide an example template on their website that you can use as a guide. Follow this with a basic safety briefing to ensure they understand essential safety protocols, including incident reporting and complaints procedures, your risk assessments, for example, that you've completed in relation to any hazards and risks relevant to your building, which you should be sharing with your contractors. And you should also be highlighting any specific access requirements. Now, even though contractors may come with existing skills and they're going to be the specialists in their line of work in many cases, it is important to ensure that they are familiar with your specific building and any local requirements, such as your fire safety measures. And this helps align their work with your organization's expectations and safety measures. To facilitate smooth communication and support, a point of contact within your organization should be assigned to the contractor, and this makes sure that key information doesn't get lost and that the contractor knows who to go to for questions and any concerns. Regular check-ins should be scheduled to monitor progress, provide feedback, and address any issues promptly. And finally, make sure to document and evidence safety briefings and inductions provided, which is helpful in showing you have done your part in making them aware. This approach makes sure that contractors are ready and fully equipped to work safely. So effective contractor management doesn't stop at onboarding. Monitoring their work is also essential. Even though contractors are specialists in their work, it's important to not simply just leave them to get on with it without any oversight. Regularly, you need to be monitoring contractor performance, and this is essential for maintaining quality and compliance. Start with regular check-in meetings to discuss progress and address any concerns, and then conduct basic site inspections to ensure the work is being carried out as expected and in compliance with safety standards. Maintain open communication with contractors to quickly address any issues and document these issues and their resolutions to keep a clear record. Ensure compliance with essential safety standards by regularly reviewing safety practices. So, for example, are your contractors wearing the PPE that they said they're going to be wearing? Collect feedback from team members and stakeholders to gain different perspectives on contractor performance and use this feedback to make continuous improvements. For tracking performance against key goals, use simple methods such as a notebook or checklist, which are easier to manage for smaller organizations. And you want to adopt a risk-based approach to monitoring. So what do I mean by that? You want to be considering the level of risk involved and the autonomy that might be suitable for the contractor, while making periodic checks to confirm safety measures are being followed. So dependent on the level of risk involved in the work, you might be wanting to do more monitoring or less monitoring. And be confident to stop work if there are any health and safety concerns. After the job is finished, review and learn from any lessons to improve future performance. By implementing these practical steps, small charities and voluntary organisations can effectively monitor and manage contractor performance, ensuring that works are completed safely and to a high standard, even when working with specialists. Now, it may be tempting to leave out this final step, which is the evaluation and review stage. And this comes after the contractor's work is finished. But this step is crucial and highly beneficial to implement. So It is where you are effectively assessing the contractor's performance and capturing lessons learned for future projects. And it ensures that all project objectives have been met and identifies those areas for improvement to enhance future contractor engagements. So it's important that you don't skip this step. It's just as important as the rest. And start by checking how well the contractor did their job compared to what you expected. Talk to your team, get their thoughts on how everything went, and make sure that all the work meets your standards. Write down any big lessons you learned so that you can do even better next time. And finally, officially wrap up the contract. And this includes signing off on all the deliverables, ensuring all the paperwork is complete, and making the final payment if everything is in order. This helps close out the project properly and set you up for success in the future. Now, it's important to remember that no matter how small your organization or how big your organization, as the client, you are in control when managing contractors. Maintaining control when managing contractors starts with a clear contract that outlines the scope, timelines, terms and conditions. Having a simple project plan and a single point of contact within your organization can streamline communication and oversight. Utilizing project management tools, even simple ones, can help keep things on track. And there's lots of free examples available online. So, Microsoft To Do, Google Sheets, Trello, Asana, all sorts. Don't necessarily endorse one over the other, but all of these can help small organizations plan, track, and execute projects efficiently. And then we want to be thinking about regular site visits and discussions to ensure that the work is progressing as expected, and including retention clauses in the contracts, which can incentivize satisfactory completion of the work. So basic retention clause in the contract can act as a financial safeguard to ensure that a contractor completes the work to the agreed upon standards and addresses any defects or issues that may arise. Typically, a portion of the payment, so this could be about 5 to 10%, is withheld until the work reaches specific milestones or is fully completed and satisfactorily reviewed. Good communication is key. Keep it open and ongoing. And lastly, maintain thorough records of all interactions, agreements, and changes. As an insurer, this is incumbent on me to remind you of the importance of the record keeping arrangements, because this really helps support when it comes to claims defense when things have gone wrong. So these steps empower small organizations to confidently manage contractors and ensure project success. So it's important to develop and implement effective communication strategies to ensure building safety information is effectively shared across your organization and with volunteers and your contractors. Now, effective building management communication strategies are vital for ensuring smooth operations, project success, and mitigating liability risks. Establishing clear communication channels allows all parties to stay informed and connected. And where you are renting your building to others, provide tenants or building users with information on safety protocols, emergency procedures, and their responsibilities. Use internal platforms like the intranet, emails, regular meetings to facilitate seamless communication within the organization. And for external communication, utilize emails, mobile apps, printed materials to keep contractors updated and ensure they have access to the necessary information. Interactive tools such as training sessions and workshops and safety drills engage both internal staff and external contractors, fostering a culture of continuous learning and safety awareness. Regular updates keep everyone on the same page regarding progress and any changes, helping to identify and address potential risks early. Documenting key information ensures that important details are recorded and easily accessible for future reference, which is essential in the event of a liability claim or investigation. Engaging stakeholders throughout the process fosters collaboration and ensures that their needs and concerns are addressed, enhancing overall safety and compliance. Promptly addressing issues as they arise helps prevent small problems from escalating into larger ones that could lead to liability claims. And having an emergency plan in place ensures that everyone knows how to respond in case of unexpected events, significantly reducing liability risks. Even if you're a small organization or a one-person operation and are really time-stretched, you can still implement effective building management communication strategies by focusing on the basics. Establish clear communication channels, use simple tools like emails for quick updates, and engage everyone through brief but regular meetings or updates. These steps can ensure that all stakeholders receive timely, relevant information, that they participate in safety practices and help reduce liability risks without overwhelming your limited time. Now, for small organizations, keeping safety information up to date is key. For instance, update your fire drill procedures whenever there are changes in the building layout, such as new exits or construction activities. And this ensures that everyone knows the safest and most efficient way to evacuate. To keep things efficient, you could incorporate safety reviews and discussions about recent incidents into regular team or staff meetings. And this way, you don't need to schedule extra meetings and can make the most of the time you already have together. So encourage your employees, volunteers, and contractors to share their thoughts. And you could place, for example, it's a simple suggestion, but a suggestion box somewhere visible in the building, or you could use an anonymous online form to collect feedback. And this way you get a better understanding of what's working and what needs improvement, where best to focus your attention. After any safety training session, because we know it's important that staff, trustees and volunteers understand safety requirements and what they need to do to ensure you'll comply, you could send out a short survey. Ask questions like, what part of the training was most useful and what could we do better next time? This feedback helps fine-tune your training sessions. You'll likely receive a similar feedback form after this webinar. I'm sure you'll all be kind and your thoughts are really valued. If you're running training sessions in-house, use real-life examples to make the rules more relatable. So for example, if there was a recent liquid spill in the staff room, use that incident to explain the correct cleanup procedure. This makes the safety rules easier to understand and follow. And by regularly updating building safety information, reviewing your procedures, and encouraging feedback, you create a safer environment. Everyone feels more involved and better prepared to handle emergencies. And the crux is make building safety a regular discussion point within your organization. Now, building inspection regimes are essential for maintaining safety, functionality, and regulatory compliance. Regular inspections help identify and address potential issues early, ensuring a well-managed and safe environment. In simple terms, building inspection regimes mean regularly checking different parts of the building to make sure everything is working well and is safe for everyone. For smaller organizations or charities, keeping buildings in good shape is really important for safety and smooth operation. Regular checks help spot and fix problems early so they don't turn into big expensive issues or safety risks like that case study we heard about earlier. By doing these regular inspections, you make sure that the building stays safe and works well for everyone inside. And taking this proactive approach shows that you care about providing a well-maintained space. It helps show that you care about safety, and it can also help boost your organization's reputation. So an effective inspection regime includes regular checkups called scheduled inspections, quick ad hoc checks for specific issues, and compliance checks for making sure you meet all safety rules. Regular scheduled inspections help keep everything in good shape. Quick checks are for when unexpected problems pop up, and making sure you follow all the safety requirements and regulations keeps everyone safe and the building compliant. Together, these steps help you manage and maintain the building effectively. To make sure you have a solid inspection regime, start by creating a calendar for regular scheduled inspections and assign someone to manage them. If you need help in putting together a checklist, let us know and we can support you with that. And also encourage everyone to stay alert and report any issues they see so you can address them quickly. It's just as important to write down issues noted on an ad hoc basis as well as the action you took. This can help defend claims should things go wrong. Lastly, make sure you know the safety rules and regularly review your practices to stay compliant. Following these steps will help you keep your building safe and well maintained. So for smaller organisations or charities, a good building inspection regime includes several key elements. So use detailed checklists to ensure that nothing is missed during inspections. Have simple reporting procedures to document findings and track what needs fixing. Keep records of all maintenance and repairs. Train your inspectors, a formal word for them, but anyone who's carrying out these checks, train them so that they know what to look for and can spot issues effectively. And make sure that they include not just the building, but also surrounding areas such as the grounds, the car parks and walkways. We commonly see claims relevant to slips and trips from poorly maintained outdoor areas, so always bear them in mind as well as part of that inspection regime. And you can use technology and tools such as lots of mobile apps out there to make inspections more accurate and efficient. And by following these steps, this will help keep your building safe, functional and compliant with standards. Now let's look at some insurance and liability risk considerations for some specific scenarios. So in today's climate of rising cost of living challenges, charities and voluntary organisations often find it increasingly difficult to allocate sufficient resources for effective building management. However, by leveraging help from the public and volunteers, organisations can maintain and enhance their facilities without significantly straining their budgets. While these options present valuable opportunities, and we're starting to see more queries coming in relation to them, it is crucial to consider the associated liability risks and ensure appropriate measures are in place. So community watch programs, these encourage local residents to keep an eye on the building and report any issues, helping to ensure safety and security without additional staffing costs. But make sure that people know how to report issues rather than trying to fix them themselves. Adopt a space programs. These allow local groups or businesses to take responsibility for the upkeep of specific areas of the building or grounds, providing ongoing maintenance support and fostering community engagement, which is all wonderful stuff. But there will need to be formalized agreements with clear terms and conditions, including liability clauses. Ensure that all participants are briefed on safety protocols and that your insurance policy covers third-party involvement. To make this work, you'll need clear agreements that spell out what each party is responsible for and ensure you have the right insurance to cover any mishaps. Recruiting volunteers with specific skills, such as electricians, plumbers, or carpenters, can help address more technical maintenance tasks without incurring professional services costs. But you want to verify the credentials and the experience of your volunteers and ensure that they are properly insured, either through your own policy for the organisation or that they have their own insurance in place, and provide safety training and appropriate supervision to minimise risks. And then renting out your building for events can bring in extra money. Make sure you have rental agreements that include liability clauses and require renters to provide proof of their own event insurance if they are hosting events there. And finally, you want to keep records of all of these arrangements, all the agreements, what was discussed, what training was issued, what safety information was passed on to third parties before getting them involved. So by considering these points, you can manage your building effectively while minimizing the risks and ensuring all practical and insurance arrangements are in place. I'm sure you lovely people have lots of questions around some of these areas. There are additional resources on the screen, and of course the slide pack will be sent out. So Zurich does publish news and risk insights, and you can subscribe to those. So if you click on the link in the slide, it will take you to those. The Health and Safety Executive, HSE's website, is a really useful resource in terms of understanding health and safety guidance. What does the law say? There are lots of FAQs on the website, so worth having a look there, and lots of templates available as well. And of course, the Zurich Claims Defensibility Guide, a bit of bedtime reading. And also, if you have any questions, please do feel free to get in contact. But that brings us to the end of this presentation, and I will now hand back to my colleague.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Michelle. That was so useful. And I love that kind of the 5 stages of effective kind of contract management just had so many useful kind of checklists embedded within them. In a moment, we're going to move on to the Q&A session. We'll have kind of 10 minutes to take your questions. We won't be able to kind of answer all of them, but I think Michelle has kindly said that any questions that we don't manage to cover, live, she'll kind of take away, she'll answer, and we'll kind of respond to in the follow-up email that we'll send shortly after today. So Michelle, if you want to have a look at the questions that we've got coming through, we'll move on to those in just a moment. But very kind of quickly, if you're not yet a member of NCVO, we would love to welcome you into our community of 17,000 organisations, from the biggest house-name charities to the smallest community groups. Now, 70% of our members have free membership with us, and 90% are small charities with a turnover of under 1 million. So do take a look at our many member benefits, from the 30% offer place at our hugely popular training courses, to the huge number of downloadable tools and templates that are held behind the member paywall that will help save you time and money so that you can focus on the things that really matter. So Michelle, if I move back to the Q&A box, and we'll see kind of what's at the top. So I think you said in those kind of final couple of slides about having an inspection checklist. Does Zurich have one that could be circulated, or do you know ones that are kind of floating around on other kind of websites that would be great for our members to use?
Yes, it sort of depends exactly what it would be for. So yeah, sort of in terms of a simple building safety checklist, can certainly see whether we've got one to send out. Yeah, let's have a look at the resources available and scale them up or down depending on the types of organisations that might need them. But certainly, yeah, we do have some in the background.
Great. So it's certainly going to be a start of a 10. And just kind of looking from the chat earlier on when people joined, like we've got such an array of different kind of organisations who are here. So we've got people running kind of village halls and their care homes, local CVSs, community hubs, rehab centres, and recreation grounds. So the types of kind of properties and the buildings that are that our members in the voluntary sector are running and operating from are hugely varied. But yeah, we'll make sure that we include like a start of a 10 checklist in the follow-up email that we send after today's webinar. The next question kind of really spoke to me, kind of particularly when I'm trying to bring in someone to repair my home and I don't really know what they're kind of talking about or how qualified they might be. But Sylvia kind of said that she understands that we are to ensure that a contractor is suitably qualified to do their job, but most of them aren't very kind of forthcoming in supplying that information, and maybe voluntary organisations don't necessarily have the kind of expertise in-house to know what the kind of qualifications might actually mean. How do you kind of ascertain like the credibility of contractors who might be responding to the jobs that you're putting out there?
Yeah, I think a good contractor will very often be part of an industry body, so they'll have membership or accreditation, which you would be able to verify if you went on, for example, in the electrical industry, there are industry bodies that would check the qualifications and have minimum requirements for contractors. And another example, for example, may be gas safety. So very specific requirements for gas safety contractors. So that's always a good port of call, is depending on the field within which they're working, do a quick search to find out what sort of industry bodies are out there and what sort of standards have they set for contractors. And I also think sometimes we can overcomplicate things. I think sometimes just having a discussion with a contractor and sort of gauging their sort of experience, what other projects have they worked on? Can they give examples? And a good contractor quite often will be more than willing to share those examples. And also just how willing generally are they to engage with you? If they're the sort of contractor that's keeping you at arm's length, maybe they're not the best one to be working with. So I think sometimes we can be a bit intimidated by the skills and the specialisms of the contractors, but the good ones will talk to you, and they will be very happy to share their qualifications, accreditations with you.
Perfect, sound advice. Thanks, Michelle. And so the next one kind of from Martine. So this is about kind of like public liability insurance, when you might be kind of renting out your space to others to use. So Martine kind of has a hall that they can rent out for other people to use on a weekly basis. Her understanding is that they would require their own public liability insurance, and that wouldn't come under their own building insurance should something happen. Yeah. Is that the case, do you know?
Yeah, so as the landlord, you'd want to be having your own property insurance in place. So that's going to cover damage to the building and its contents due to sort of, events like fire, theft, natural disasters. And then the public liability insurance, now you might have your own in terms of any injuries or damages to third parties and their items as a result of sort of the way in which you manage your building. But I would expect them to have their own public liability insurance. So, that's going to protect against any claims for injuries or damages that occur on your property. And the other thing for you to think about is maybe contents insurance, depending on what you have in your building. If there's a risk of that being damaged or stolen, then that might be an additional consideration.
So can link to that, would the event insurance side of things kind of be down to the person who's renting out your space rather than you as the landlord or the owner?
Generally, yes. Yeah. I mean, I would say if you've got any doubt about insurance cover, just give us a call. We're always happy to chat. So just ask the account manager, what's the extent of coverage that you have in place and whether or not your cover needs to be extended, or whether you need to ask your hirees whether they've got specific insurance in place.
Perfect. And then the next one from Bola kind of just relates about some of the terminology, and I think this kind of goes back to the planning and selection slide you're kind of covering. Could you just explain a little bit more about what a method statement is? I think you also kind of referred to kind of the risk assessment statement, but there was also a reference to a method statement there.
Yes. So another word for it is the safety procedure. So it's the step-by-step process for how they're going to do the work safely. It might also include things like the types of tools, materials that they're going to be using, who's responsible for what. But effectively, it's your how-to guide to doing the work safely and properly.
Perfect. And then we've got another question here, and if we look at the one from Nicole Fletcher, who rents their kind of building from a local council. And I think this kind of question came in around kind of the contract management side of things. So when the local council kind of sends in kind of their workers and their operatives to carry out some work, who's kind of responsible for that? Is it the council, or is it kind of them as a tenant with an agreement in place?
Yeah, so there's some areas of individual responsibility and then some areas of overlap. So whoever is in charge of the building, they're going to have obviously some responsibilities to make sure that people are going to be working safely. As an employer, you'll have responsibility to make sure that your staff are or volunteers are aware of safety requirements. And then there's this area of overlap in the middle where there needs to be sharing of information. So each organisation is going to hold some amount of risk information that is going to be relevant to each other. I'm thinking of an example where you have asbestos in a building. Now, a landlord might be aware of asbestos in the building, and they're going to need to share that information with the other organisation so that they're aware and so that their staff know what to do if they come across it, or they shouldn't be coming across it, shall I say. Wait the safety measures in place to avoid sort of dangerous conditions. So each will have their own duties, but then also they need to coordinate and sort of cooperate with each other in terms of areas of overlap.
Thank you. That's great. And so our final kind of question, if we have a look at that one from Andrew, so can using a skilled volunteer without their own insurance, how can an organisation limit its liability in the event of an accident?
Yeah, so I think the key thing there, the key word is skilled. So asking about their experience, and there is some case law relevant to the use of volunteers that come in and done things off their own accord and then been injured, and that's resulted in claims. So you don't want that scenario. So make sure that they really are qualified in the field that they're putting themselves forward for. Maybe ask for evidence of those qualifications. And even if they are skilled, you still want to make sure that you're giving safety instructions, that they're aware of all the safety protocols, of fire drills, if they're using your equipment like ladders, work at height, make sure that, that there might be a skilled carpenter, but do they understand working at height requirements? What do they need to do to work safely there? So do some basic checks on their qualifications. I'd say it's always useful to obtain a copy of those qualifications, and also make sure that you're having that safety briefing with them to sort of fully understand the work. And in some cases it might be appropriate to provide some monitoring. So if they're coming in and doing some work for you, make sure that they are wearing their PPE, that they are working safely. And by doing that, you should be able to show that you're discharging your own due diligence and your duties effectively.
Nice one. Michelle, thank you so much for kind of taking all those kind of questions that have come in, and thank you to everyone who has submitted them. There was kind of one final question around kind of how do you find a building inspector, but we'll make sure that we respond to that in the follow-up email. But if you don't know already, there's heaps of kind of help and guidance on the NCVO website. As I said before, some bits are free and available to everyone, and other resources are behind the member paywall. But there are two bits that I thought this worth highlighting today, and there are resources on budgeting, insurance and security, and our guidance on a charity's duty to have liability insurance. And I think we'll share links to those two web pages in the chat, and we'll include them in the follow-up email later on today. But then for any questions that you can't find the answers to online, NCVO also has a free helpline for small charities. So you can scan the QR code that's on the slide now to find the details of how to contact the team. And we'll also include those contact details in the follow-up email. Obviously, today's webinar has been delivered in partnership with our trusted supplier, Zurich, who provide insurance for charities, social enterprises and community groups of all shapes and sizes. So they offer a fixed package for organisations with an income under £300,000, where cover includes £5 million of public liability, including cover for volunteers. They have personal accident cover and up to £10 million of employers' liability. They also kind of obviously provide insurance and package of support for organisations with an income of over £300,000, and they'll be more than happy to talk through your needs with you. So in our final minute together, any minute now, a snap poll will appear on your screen to get your initial thoughts on how you found today's webinar. And then if you've got the time, we also have a short feedback survey, which will appear on your browser as you leave the Zoom call, where you can give feedback on the things that were helpful, what you'd like more information on, and most importantly for us, where we could make improvements in future. So I hope the past hour has been useful and you've got a whole list of things you want to do and the conversations that you need to have within your organisation. A huge thanks to Michelle for guiding us through the last hour and for answering all of your questions. And thanks to all of you as well for joining this morning's webinar in partnership with Zurich. Until next time, take care and we hope to see you again soon.